Dalen Terry has been assigned down to the Windy City Bulls, and we're going to talk about what that could mean. And is this the last chance that Dalen Terry has to really develop himself to be able to contribute at the NBA level? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. But more importantly, make sure you guys are following the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every single social media platform that we have. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. You guys know we're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That means we got to bring you the breaking news. And that means that we got to talk about Dalen Terry, who was just announced that he will be assigned down to the Windy City Bulls in the G League yet again this season. Now, Dalen Terry, as we all know, is a player that has not really showed anything at the NBA level to show that he's ready to contribute, right? He still looks like he's a step behind at times, that he's a little bit too erratic at times with his play. The defense that, was really one of his calling cards in college hasn't really showed itself either, even though he hasn't played a lot of minutes. Dalen Terry in his rookie year, 38 games played. Was surprised it was that much, but he only averaged 5.6 minutes per game. We already know he was the least played 18th overall pick, I believe, in NBA history, averaging 2.2 points per game, 1 rebound, 0.6 assists, and 0.3 steals. Again, nothing, but it's the eye test. When Dalen Terry's on the court, you just see that the uncertainty, the fact that the speed of the game is still something that very much gets to him. He can't really do much in the half court. The few flashes that he's shown has all been in transition and things like that. So Dalen Terry, we know he came into the league very raw shooter. He's 21 years old. He just turned 21 this past July, so he will be 21 the entirety of the season. Won't turn 22 until basically the off season. So this is another season of development for Dalen Terry, right? And so, while coming in a 6'7", he's now about 210 pounds, even though ESPN still listed him at 195. ESPN has been doing a terrible job at updating players' weights, by the way. But he's definitely added some muscle a little bit down there. But it's really another season of focusing on developing for Dalen Terry, and expect him to really be featured down there in the Windy City Bulls, much like last season. Last season, he played 13 games with the Windy City Bulls, and in those 13 games, completely different than NBA, averaging 14 points per game, 47% shooting. He was taking 3 3-pointers per game, hitting that at a 40% clip on top of that, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.4 steals, a little over a half a block per game was Dalen Terry averaging down there in the G League. And he was doing a lot of the half-court setup things. So Dalen Terry, for those that watched the Windy City Bulls last year, you saw a little bit of that potential. Now, only so much of it matters on the G League level. You have to eventually be able to show it at the NBA level. You guys know we'll be doing the weekly G League update videos here, just going over what the week in the G League once that season starts. So Dalen Terry is definitely one of those players that joins Adama Sinago, Justin Lewis, right, of players that we're going to really be looking at. Obi, right? These are players that, with Dalen Terry, that could be a big part of the actual Chicago Bulls future at some point in time, if they really have plans for him, to be on the back end of that bench at some point in time. But this season, it's important for Dalen Terry to go down there and round out his game. Because I tell you what, I'm not somebody who, after one season and a season in which you barely played, I'm not ready to write the story on Dalen Terry. I know a lot of Bulls fans are ready to write him off as a bust. I'm not ready to do that yet. I think, you got to see him sink or swim at the NBA level if he can crack that rotation. But listen, Dalen has to now, with the additive of the player development department now that we have with the Chicago Bulls, it's up to Dalen to work with those guys, to figure out part of his game, to allow the game to slow down to him, to really attack it down at the G League. And some of the signs for concern is Dalen is like, it was his second year in Summer League. He had, one really good shooting game down there in Summer League. And so usually players in the second year of Summer League show a little bit something because they've been working with NBA, dietitians and athletics and workout facilities for a year. And he really came down there and still looked the same as a lot of the rookies down there. So those are some things that are big time concerning for Dalen Terry and where his development's going to sit him. He got drafted as a prospect or a project player for the Chicago Bulls, a player that, has upside, but really didn't have any one surefire skill at that point in time. So it's up to Dalen to really own that. And I want to see from Dalen down here with the Windy City Bulls this upcoming year is just look like the best player on the floor at times. That's what you would want to see from a player that's now entering their second year and that was actually drafted. It's not like he's just entering his second year as a G League player. He was drafted with the 18th overall pick. So it's up to Dalen to really show a lot down there at the Windy City Bulls for what it's worth. Doesn't mean even if he does flash a whole lot, that really doesn't necessarily mean anything for the regular NBA season. So there's always that as well. But you want Dalen Terry to show up better down there and in competition. And hopefully we're talking about a player that, listen, he took his second year. He went down there and did some developing, stuff like that, right? And, you know, Dalen right now is a far way off from cracking the rotation, I feel. They haven't assigned Julian Phillips down there yet, so that may point to Julian Phillips. Maybe, you know, they see a little bit more in him. But you know, as of right now, Dalen Terry's assigned down to the G League. This is an important season for Dalen Terry to show something and get better acclimated, because I tell you what, there's not going to be too many more opportunities for Dalen Terry at some point. If you go into the third year, you know, even whatever we're going to talk about Patrick Williams, if Dalen Terry goes into his third year, comes out this year, and is still not ready to at least be on the NBA court, that doesn't go well for a player that you spent the 18th overall pick to draft. But so let's just continue to see. Let me know you guys' thought as always down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. Like I say, stay tuned in as well. We'll probably be the only YouTube channel doing consistent G League coverage, so you guys can be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.